Here we go. The Lord's feast. Leviticus 23:1. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, the feast of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, these are my feasts. 6 days shall 6 days shall work be done, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work on it. It is a Sabbath for the Lord in all your dwellings. These are the feasts of the Lord, holy convocations, which you shall proclaim at their appointed times. Now, I highlighted or make bold those couple things I want you to pay attention to here. You know, we'll begin to start studying the Lord's Feast, and Apostle been teaching us for a while here. And that was the unique thing about meeting up with the Martins, is that they really understand this, and we have been indulging in this thing. And so they really gave me a lot more insight through studying with them. But when I initially began to read this and you begin to talk about this, most people think these were Jewish feasts. And that's the way it's presented. But I present to you right there, he said the feast of the Lord. He didn't say that it was a black feast. These were not African American feasts. These were not Jewish feasts solely. These were the Lord's feast. Wait a minute. Is this Lord your Lord? And if he said observe these feasts, did he not call us or just the Jewish nation or the Israelite? Who did he call to observe the feast? Because I don't see where it says these are the feasts of the Jews. These are the feasts of the Gentiles. He said these are the Lord's feasts. Wait a minute. So that takes all that disclaimer that that's not relevant for you and I to understand the feast. Because I understand it, these are his feasts. Not only that, he said you should proclaim them in their appointed times. Here's what's interesting about the Christian and the Christian church, the way we've been taught. And I hope I communicate this correctly. I'm going to do my best here. A lot of secular holidays, we know Easter, Christmas, those things, we really observe those days, and we're very serious about them. And we love that time of year because they had great meaning. They bring about a great feeling. But let me tell you something. If we can observe those days, which we know have pagan origins, how can we not observe the very festivals and the holidays that are documented in the very book that we ascribe to? And I wonder why things are not working the way they are. Because at appointed times, I looked at the word, and she taught me years ago, but I look it up again. The appointed time, the moeds of God, those are appointed times and seasons. Let me tell you something. You don't go to the doctor's office without an appointment. If you show up at the doctor's office when he didn't call you, but when he called you and say, come, I think you come. Especially if you're sick. What are these? These are appointed times. And they don't change. God works in seasons. There's a season to God. And you just can't do it the way we want to do it. That's the problem. We haven't understood these things. We don't embrace them. I keep telling myself, Lord, what is wrong? He said, maybe the times. Maybe I closed the office that day. I don't know. Maybe, think about it. But we have to understand this because this is part of our history. We need to understand this here. Real quick. Appointed times, moed, designated times and seasons. The set time, time within time. Time within time. Here's the interesting thing. Let me show you an example how our mind works. We're born a certain day and a certain year. And we say that's our beginning, and we know there's an end. So when we take that mentality and try to relate to God and say God has a beginning and he has an end. When in reality, there's no beginning and end for him. And yet we can't grasp that because he lives outside of time. And there's this thing called eternity. And so we take that little 70, 80 years and we put beginning and end, and we can't understand God. So we think that it has to be a beginning and end. I ask you a question. How high do the heavens go? How high are the heavens? You've seen this, I always say this here. Someone is a scholar. Someone's going to know. If I said 93 million miles is the what? Come on, sister. You know it said. Thank you. That's what man equates the distance from the earth to the sun. 93 million miles. Everyone learned that in science class back 5 fourth, fifth grade, right? But here's the thing. You ever thought about 93 million miles on the other side of the sun? Have you ever thought 93 million miles from that point to the other side of that point? Is there a cap to heaven? Is there a point where we hit the roof and we can't go anymore? Does eternity stretch only so far and then it stops? But can you ever comprehend in your mind that there's something out there that's so vast beyond what my mind could ever comprehend? There is eternity there. And we take our little finite minds and try to impose infinity into this finite mind, and we try to relate to God that way. Shame, shame, shame. And we get frustrated because can you really think? They told me that there were 9 planets in the solar system. I was re-educated the other night by Jaden. He re-educated me. I'm sorry, I won't use you too often, but I got to tell you a story. He said, Dad, scientists say now there's only 8. You know, Pluto has this ring around it. It's a meteor. That means it's a meteor because they look at the pattern now. It's no longer considered a planet. Your teachings are outdated. There are only 8 planets. Me being the little person I am, I said, let me Google this here. I said, this boy can't be teaching me that. I say, wow, that little ring, he said, that little proof, that little ring means that it got off its axis, it's now as a meteor. That's what it was. I said, okay. I said, you're right. That's what they're saying now. I thought, wow. Point being made. Even what people told you they knew, they could have been wrong. They don't know everything. There's so much more out there than you know. You ever thought about, can you comprehend in your mind how powerful, how awesome, and how big God really is?